Hey, welcome to our explainer. If you're on a fertility journey, you know it comes with a ton of questions, right? Well, today we're diving into some of the big ones. We're talking everything from the nitty-gritty of your prenatal vitamins to the science behind timing your next pregnancy. Our goal, to get you clear, expert-backed answers.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of prenatal nutrition. Then, and this is a big one, we have a critical warning about a super common supplement you need to know about. After that, we'll gently navigate the really tough topic of complex pregnancy loss. And we'll wrap things up by talking strategy, specifically timing your next pregnancy. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, prenatal nutrition. Sometimes it's the little things, the micro-optimizations, that can really make a difference. So let's zoom in on a really specific detail. We're kicking things off with a fantastic question from Amanda. She's asking about choline. And you know what? This is a nutrient that trips a lot of people up. Like, how much do you actually need? And what are you even looking for on the label? Let's break it down. And you'll be happy to know the answer here is pretty straightforward. You want to see at least 450 milligrams on that vitamin bottle. That's the magic number. It's considered the minimum because the assumption is you're getting the rest from what you eat. So really, no need to overthink it. Just look for that 450. And yeah, speaking of your diet, your supplement isn't working in a vacuum, right? It's part of a team effort. You can get plenty of choline from foods like meat and eggs. And if you're plant-based, no worries. Legumes, beans, and tofu are also fantastic sources. All right, let's switch gears to another huge dietary question that pops up constantly. Artificial sweeteners. What's the deal with stuff like sucralose? Is it okay when you're trying to get pregnant, or should you avoid it? So here's the expert thinking on this. They're literally called non-nutritive sugars, which means they give you zero nutritional benefit, absolutely nothing. And the logic is, well, why would you put something in your body that has no upside but might have a downside? Especially when some data links them to lower pregnancy rates. The advice is pretty clear. It's best to limit them as much as you possibly can. Okay, pay close attention to this next part because it is so important. We're about to talk about a hidden ingredient that's in a ton of supplements, and it could be quietly sabotaging your fertility lab results without you even having a clue. And this question from Michelle really hits the nail on the head. It's crucial for anyone going through something like IVF, where you're basically living by your blood test results. She asks, you've mentioned high levels of biotin can interfere with blood tests. Is the 1,000 micrograms in my prenatal too much? And this quote right here says it all, doesn't it? We don't want to be paying so much money to go through IVF, not having the best cycle that we can. Think about it. IVF is a massive investment of money, emotion, and just everything. The absolute last thing you want is for something totally preventable, like a vitamin, to mess with your results. So what's the threshold? Well, the research is actually pretty clear. The science shows that once you go over 300 micrograms of biotin a day, it can start messing with your lab results, potentially giving you and your doctor inaccurate numbers. And this is why it's such a big deal. High biotin doesn't just affect one little thing. It can throw off a whole bunch of your most important hormone tests. We're talking thyroid, AMH, estrogen, progesterone. These are the numbers your doctor uses to make huge decisions about your treatment. If the data is wrong, the decisions could be wrong. It's that serious. So, what can you do about it right now? It's actually super simple. Go grab your prenatal vitamin, or, and this is important, any of those hair, skin, and nail supplements too, and just flip it over. Find the supplement facts label, look for biotin, and check the percent daily value. If that number is over 100%, that's your red flag. It's too much if you're going through fertility treatments. Okay, we're going to transition now to a much more sensitive and, frankly, difficult topic. We're going to be talking about a heartbreaking situation involving recurrent pregnancy loss, and hopefully we can offer some clarity on what the next steps might look like. This next question comes from someone who has been through an unimaginable amount of pain. She's 38 with PCOS, she's had 8 miscarriages, and her doctor has diagnosed a weakened cervix. The standard treatments, vaginal cerclages, have failed, and she's asking, understandably, is there anything else I can do? You know, when you're facing something this complex, the very first step is to make absolutely sure that no stone has been left unturned. A complete full panel evaluation for recurrent pregnancy loss is just non-negotiable, and that means looking way beyond the cervix. We're talking genetic profiles for both partners, deep dives into potential clotting or autoimmune issues, and a really thorough anatomical review. Now, specifically for these very complex cases, where the traditional vaginal approach just hasn't worked, there is another option. It's a more intensive procedure called an abdominal cerclage. Basically, it's a stitch that's placed much, much higher up on the cervix. Think of it as a more permanent, heavy-duty solution. It definitely requires a specialized team, usually involving an IVF doctor and a high-risk OB working together. All right, for our last section, let's talk about a dilemma that so many people face, especially if you're in your late 30s or beyond. It's that classic balancing act. How do you give your body the time it needs to recover from pregnancy while also feeling the pressure of the good old biological clock? And Sandy's question just sums this up perfectly. She says, I'm 38 with a 3-month-old. Should I wait the recommended 18 months to conceive again, or will waiting too long hurt my chances due to my age? I mean, that's the classic catch-22, right? And she is absolutely right to feel that tension. You're basically weighing two different sets of risks against each other. On one hand, if you get pregnant again too soon, say in less than a year, you increase the risk of complications because your body just hasn't had enough time to fully heal. But on the other hand, if you wait, especially in your late 30s, you face the risk that it might be harder to conceive at all. It's a tough spot. So let's get practical and look at the actual timeline. Doctors say 6 months is the absolute minimum recovery time before you should even consider another pregnancy. The standard recommendation is to wait at least 12 months before trying again. Now, you often hear that 18-month number as the ideal, but here's a key insight from the expert. For most people, the extra benefit you get from waiting from 12 months to 18 months is actually not that huge statistically. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room. But, and this is a huge but, this is where technology like IVF can totally change the game. This quote says it all. The embryo is frozen. We don't have to worry about that impact of increasing age. If you have frozen embryos, that whole biological clock pressure, it's basically gone. The age-related risk is off the table because the embryos aren't getting any older. So, what's the bottom line here? It's that there is no one-size-fits-all answer. It really comes down to a personal conversation and a personal decision. It's about you, your partner, and your doctor sitting down and balancing your health, your age, and what you want for your family. So we've covered a lot, right? From nutrition and supplements to really complex loss and pregnancy spacing. And it all boils down to this one simple idea. You have the questions, and now, hopefully, you're a little more armed with the right information to ask them in a new way. The single most powerful thing you can do is take this knowledge and start having those really specific, informed conversations with your doctor to figure out the best path for your journey.